Fellas, do you struggle managing your emotions? Do they get the better of you? Specifically, your anger. Do you find yourself overreacting, saying things you don't mean, even doing things you don't mean, right? Well, if that's you, you're in the right place because in this video, I want to talk about why emotional intelligence will make you a dangerous man. All right, let's go ahead and get right into it. So if this is the first time you've ever clicked on one of my videos and you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say emotional intelligence, what I mean is emotional intelligence is the ability to be able to recognize your emotional state at any given moment. And when you can recognize your emotional state, your emotions don't get the better of you because you have more of a sense of control over what's going on. You're also able to bring yourself back down to being grounded and not letting the emotions take over your responses to things. Now, emotional intelligence is also being aware of how your behaviors and how your patterns are affecting those around you. Now, a lot of us don't even realize this. Men specifically, we don't realize how our actions are hitting those around us. Okay. Now, I personally struggled with this for a long time. I did not even realize that I lacked this ability until I got on my journey of self-awareness, et cetera, et cetera. So I've learned the importance of this, specifically dealing with women. All right. Emotional intelligence is your cheat code to being better with women. But that's not what this video is specifically about. This is just about emotional intelligence and how it will overall make you a more solid, masculine man. All right. This is a key component that all men need to work on in their lives. It's very powerful. Now, why do we need emotional intelligence? It's like I said, emotional intelligence is your ability to be able to regulate yourself. It's your ability to be able to have more control over your responses when you get pissed off to things. You know, and specifically, I mean, you're not on autopilot. You ever notice like when somebody pisses you off, right? And you may have a tendency to just react to it. You're not taking the time to slow down. You're not taking the time to actually assess what is actually going on within you, what was said. You're not assessing the dynamic, you know, and this can happen really fast. That automatic response is just so quick that we struggle even catching that moment. And before we know it, we've reacted to it. And now we've gone off the handle and said something that we don't mean. So it's key to be able to not only learn how to cultivate emotional intelligence, it's key to learn how to slow down when things piss you off. This is something that I've had to deal with in my life. All right. Like I said, I struggled with this. And even to this day, I have to be very mindful of this because it's a pattern that I've done for so long. I have to be mindful that I don't get wrapped up in it again and I start behaving like in my old ways. Okay. So emotional intelligence is something that you really want to focus on. Like I said, it's very helpful with women too. Emotional intelligence, once you start working on it and practicing it, because it's going to take practice to cultivate and to better understand this. Once you start doing this, man, you start realizing like how you're affecting women, you know, and you start realizing how comfortable they may feel around you or how uncomfortable they may feel around you based off of your emotional state. You know, a lot of us dudes are out here chasing women. You know, our lives revolve around women and how they perceive us and how they receive us and X, Y, and Z, all the above, right? But we don't realize that if you can't understand your own emotional state, bro, how in the hell do you expect to understand somebody else's emotional state? How can you handle the emotional swings of a woman when you can't handle the emotional swings of yourself? You know, and I understand us men, we are looked at to do a lot. You know, we got to pay the bills, provide, stay strong, stay stoic, don't overreact, don't be aggressive, it's so many things that we have to worry about in society, you know, this societal conditioning. So don't get me wrong, man, just being a man in general is already tough enough. So I'm not trying to make this harder on you, but I want you to understand the cheat code to life. All right. And it's your emotional intelligence or lack thereof. OK, now, my own personal experience of how I dealt with this was I was terrible in my relationship with, you know, my past, you know, my ex, mother of my kids and stuff like that. I was terrible when I would get wrapped up in their emotional state or when I felt like I was, you know, I would get defensive and stuff or not understood or not seen. And that required a whole lot of other work to go deal with. You know, I had to go handle my inner child stuff. You know, I had to go reparent that little hurt little boy. There's a lot of levels to this stuff, you know? So I want you to understand that me just saying you need to work on emotional intelligence, I know that that's not easy to do. you are going to have to go do your own research. Maybe even check out some of my videos so you have more of a clear understanding of exactly what I'm talking about. Emotional intelligence is also like emotional maturity. A lot of us are very emotionally immature. We still react to things from like our old operating systems. And by old operating systems, I mean by like when you were a child, and we never really kind of evolve and are able to sit down and have a healthy conversation with somebody and be able to work through those challenges. This is where emotional intelligence comes into play. You'll be able to learn how to sit down, have a conversation. Yeah, you might feel that internal charge. You might feel that electricity or that activation going on within you. But the better you get at this, you'll be able to actually like speak it and say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little charged up right now. I might need a moment. Like, I don't even think this is a good time to talk about it. Can we revisit this in a little bit?" And you'll start being able to verbalize these types of things. But like I said, this all takes practice. All right. And this is something you really want to practice on. If you want to get better with communicating with women or just being around women, if you want to get better at communicating with your children, specifically, you want to work on this emotional intelligence. This is going to help you like at your job. It's going to help you at the grocery store when somebody might cut in front of you in line, when somebody cuts you off in traffic. This is a universal life skill that every man needs to work on. It's unfortunate that none of us are actually taught this stuff in school. So we gotta mess up a lot to realize that it's something that we actually need to correct. And that's why I'm here. My goal is to make this video to help you highlight some of those behaviors where you may be showing up in a very emotionally immature way. And I'm sure that you're out here making some of these mistakes because I've done it and I know how common it is. One specific component about your emotions and your emotional state is that you have to realize that you are not your emotions. Okay, so say when something happens to you, all right? Say, for example, I use the cutting you off in traffic. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. It pisses you off. You look at that person like, who the hell do they think they are to cut me off? Now you've made this about you. Now I'm angry. Now you're speaking from this place of I'm angry. You're taking on the emotion of anger. And why is this a mistake? This is a mistake because you're not realizing that you're not the anger. You're not angry. You are somebody who is experiencing the emotion of anger. And the story that you start to tell yourself around that emotion of anger, when you start to tell yourself like, who the fuck does this person think they are? This motherfucker don't care about nobody but, and you got that inner dialogue going on now. Now you got the story that's starting to build and formulate around what just happened. So it's key to be able to really be aware of those stories that you're telling yourself about things that are happening. When you might get into an argument with your lady or something like that, or your kid might do something and it triggers you and activates you, it's activating a story that you've been telling yourself about any given type of like situation. Like say if, here's one, for example, like my kids don't really do this anymore, but when they were younger, my kids, like say if I would say, hey, I'm not gonna say my kid's name, but if I was to say, hey, boy, and my kid would be like, or if I was to call my kid and they would say, what? I grew up in a household, I don't know if it's a black person thing or whatnot, but you don't respond to your parents by saying what, so when my kids would do that at a younger age, like I said, they don't do it now because I've taught them to not do that. When they used to do it, it would trigger me in a way. And what is that triggering? When I would say, hey, my kid's name, and they would say what? I'd be like, hey, we don't respond saying what. I mean, you can say anything else. You can say yeah, huh, but we don't answer with what. That activated something from my own childhood, my own conditioning, to where it like triggers those old tapes, those old ways of operating. I share this example to just say that it's becoming aware of that, and it's not getting wrapped into like yelling at my kid or something like that because they're responding that way, or going off on my kid and yelling and being aggressive or just kind of snapping at them because they've said something that is activating my own internal operating system. So the power of emotional intelligence is also becoming so aware of why you're triggered. It takes time to be able to learn how to do this because it happens so fast, like I said, but it's important to be able to learn how to become more aware of when you're activated. And to go back to what I was saying is like, you're not your emotions. If my kid was to answer me saying what, and it triggers me, I'm not the anger. What it is it's activating like old wounds. You see what I'm saying? And you have to get curious with those wounds. You have to get curious with that conditioning. Like, where did this even come from? Oh, it's from my childhood. That's why I'm so bothered, because I expect my kids to act the same way that I was taught to act when I was a kid. And them kids don't know any better. You see what I'm saying? And then in a lot of situations, we'll go off on the kid because they don't really know any better. That's not why you're going off on them, but that's really what's happening. All right. And like I said, I can't harp enough that all this stuff takes so much practice. It all takes a lot of self-awareness to realize that this is even going on. I hope that this example is like helpful to you. There's so many other examples, but like, anytime somebody like says something to you and you take it personally, it's being able to like take a moment to pause, man. Take a deep breath. It's not that serious. You got to be able to learn how to create space in between the activating moment, whatever somebody said to you, whatever somebody did, and your response to it. That's where I really I struggled a lot. I didn't know how to create space. I didn't even know what that looked like. I was never taught that. I was never taught to like, hey man, you need to go take a moment and go step away. And another component that I've learned about this, man, and again, first I want to say I'm not a therapist, all right? I am a life coach, but I'm not a therapist, and this is not like therapeutic advice. This is just from my own experience and things that I've learned. I've learned that if you came out of a traumatic household, like for me, if I came out of not a traumatic household, I mean, if you experienced a lot of like traumas and stuff when you were a kid, right? That can like really mess up your nervous system and how you respond to things. And that's why a lot of us deal with like anxieties and depressions. And you ever like have something happen to you in a day and it just like shuts down your system? You can't eat. It's almost like you can't function how you normally do. It's like you've become like a shell of yourself. You have no motivation. You have no drive. And from my experience, it's when you come out of these kind of crazy households and stuff like that, and you've seen wild shit, and you didn't learn how to regulate yourself when you were younger, so that carries with you as you get older. You struggle with how, well, I'm gonna speak from my perspective. I struggle with how to like get a grip on regulating my nervous system when I got activated, because I grew up and I didn't know how to regulate myself. So as I became an adult, I still had that like weird confusion, kind of garbled up way of operating and just lashing out and just speaking before thinking, and stuff like that. So I really had to go back and get a hold on like old past traumas, old past wounds, old past conditionings, and get really curious with, okay, where were these behaviors even born out of? And the importance of understanding where your behaviors were born out of is because once you understand that, you empower yourself. You provide yourself with more choice. This is why it's so important to practice emotional intelligence and to become more emotionally mature. You give yourself the power of choice. You have the choice to respond a certain way. Yeah, you can go ahead and react and go ahead off the hand. You can go off the handle and do whatever you want to do. But that's probably not working for you. All right. And what I'm saying is you can choose to calm down and to take a moment and to say, I'm not going to overreact. I'm actually going to do what I need to do and take a moment to create some space, and then I'll respond to whatever happened. It's so important to create that space. And the way that I learned to create that space was meditation, man. I know when people hear the word meditation, they get all kind of like, here you go with the hippie woo-woo type stuff. Yo, that shit works, man. At times meditation gets away from me because life gets so busy, but that is one of the most powerful things, one of the most powerful tools that I have ever picked up in my life. And here's why. Meditation, when you practice it over, it creates space between your thoughts. Now, why is that important? All of us are just so all over the place. We're all in our phones. We're all just distracted. We're all pulled into the matrix, man. When you start meditating, bro, it creates space within your thinking so that it's not like one stream of jumbled up thoughts. You're able to like, something can happen and there's like this magic that happens where it's like, whoa, okay, that happened, but I don't have to respond to it right away. Well, I would have automatically responded to that, or excuse me, I would have automatically reacted to that in a negative, unhealthy way before I started meditating. All right. Hopefully this is making sense to you. But that's what meditation does. It's so powerful that, it does it does a bunch of things like on a scientific level, but I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just talking about like if you want to be able to learn how to create space between your thoughts so that your thoughts are not so all consuming, so that your thoughts are not running the show, and your thoughts are what are leading to your emotional state. The quality of your thinking up here is what's leading to how you feel. And then how you feel is what is dictating to how your day is playing out. So once you can understand these different components, when you can understand, like, that's when you can really start doing like deep work on yourself and really start self-improving and really start just improving the quality of your relationships with people. Okay, that's why emotional intelligence is so important. I know I just went on a tangent right there. I know this is a very deep topic, but it's very important. It's very valuable. And I think every man needs to work on improving their emotional intelligence. You also need to work on improving your body too. You need to get in the gym too, because that helps counteract stress as well. But those couple of components, start working out and start improving your emotional intelligence, will make you a dangerous man. And why exactly does it make you a dangerous man? It's because you're not easily swayed by your emotions. You're not pulled by the emotions. You're able to learn how to recognize that, yeah, there's some shit going on up inside of me right now, but I got self-control, and I'm not going to let that shit that's going on inside of me dictate how I speak to somebody or how I treat somebody. And it takes practice to do it. And if this is something that you don't want to work on, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you're that person who wants to learn how to have better control over your responses to things, work on your emotional intelligence. All right. If this video provided you with value, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you know when I make more content just like this. If you're somebody who feels like you struggle with your emotions and they get the better of you, check out this video right here where I talk about 5 signs that you're an emotionally weak man so that you can start improving those aspects of your life. And I'll see you there. Peace.